The flashing red and blue lights sliced through our peaceful suburban afternoon like a knife through butter. On my security camera feed, I watched two police officers rush through our community gate, their expressions focused and unyielding. Standing on my porch was Karen Whitfield, our HOA president, waving a key in the air like a powerless magic wand. Her face burned crimson with rage as she pounded and screamed at my locked door, completely unaware that my 12-year-old son, Leo, was inside, calmly recording the entire scene on his phone. What Karen didn't realize was that within minutes, she would be the one answering police questions, not me. This is the story of how an entitled HOA president discovered that not every door opens for her, and how calling 911 can spectacularly backfire. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm a single father and a software engineer. 3 months ago, Leo and I moved into Willowbrook Estates, a gated community I believed had fair HOA rules. It looked like the perfect place. Manicured lawns, a sparkling pool, and top-rated schools. What I hadn't accounted for was Karen Whitfield, a woman who ran the HOA as though it were her own private kingdom. From the very start, Karen made it clear she disapproved of what she called unsupervised children. The first day she saw Leo walking home from the bus stop alone, she cornered me in my driveway. In her usual condescending tone, she suggested I consider after-school care since, in her words, single parents often struggle with proper supervision. I politely explained that Leo was 12, perfectly capable of being home for 2 hours after school, and that my remote work setup allowed me to monitor him through our security system. That should have ended it, but Karen didn't recognize boundaries. Soon, she started inventing rules that didn't exist, insisting the HOA bylaws forbade children under 16 from being home alone. When I asked to see those bylaws, she claimed they were under revision and that I'd get a copy soon. That copy, of course, never arrived. Over the next few weeks, things escalated. Every afternoon, Karen began patrolling the neighborhood in her silver SUV, timing her drive-bys with the school bus arrival. She'd slow to a crawl in front of our house or park across the street, watching as Leo entered our home. My son grew increasingly uneasy, asking me why the mean lady kept watching him. Then came the breaking point, one Tuesday afternoon in October. I was in a critical video conference with clients in Japan when my phone erupted with security alerts. Someone was attempting to unlock our front door, but the key wasn't working. Through the speaker, I heard Karen's shrill voice demanding that Leo open the door immediately. My stomach dropped as I saw her on camera, jamming a key into the lock over and over. She shouted that she had an HOA master key and was conducting a welfare check. Leo, bless him, stayed calm and followed our safety plan to the letter. He hit the panic button, locking down every entry point and triggering all cameras to record automatically. Then he called me, his voice steady. "Dad, that Karen lady's trying to get in. She says she has a master key, but it's not working." I told him he'd done exactly right and to stay put while I handled it. Through the intercom, I warned Karen that she was trespassing and needed to leave immediately. Instead of backing off, she grew more furious, her face deepening to a dangerous shade of red. I watched in disbelief as she pulled out her phone and called 911, claiming there was an abandoned child inside, possibly injured, and that she couldn't get in to help. She told the dispatcher she was the HOA president conducting an authorized welfare check and that the parent was negligent. I immediately called 911 myself, explaining that an unauthorized individual was attempting to break into my home while my son was safe inside. The dispatcher assured me units were already en route. I ended my client meeting, grabbed my keys, and sped home, a storm of anger and dread swirling in my mind. By the time I arrived, 2 police cruisers were parked out front. Officers Martinez and Thompson stood on the porch, visibly skeptical as Karen ranted about HOA authority and child welfare violations. Leo had handled everything perfectly, speaking to them through our video doorbell and confirming he was fine, just doing his homework. The moment I pulled into the driveway, Karen pointed dramatically and announced that I was the negligent father who left his child alone and refused HOA safety checks. Officer Martinez gave me a look that said he already knew the truth. Calmly, he asked me to explain my side. I unlocked the door with my real key while Karen's supposed master key dangled uselessly in her hand. Inside, Leo sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by math worksheets, looking remarkably composed for a kid who'd just been through something like that. The officers checked on him first, confirming he was safe, had food, water, and communication with me. Then I pulled up the security footage on the living room TV. Together, we watched Karen approach our door without notice, pull out a key, and repeatedly attempt to enter while declaring she had HOA authority. The timestamp showed she'd been at it for nearly 10 minutes before calling the police. Officer Thompson demanded to know where Karen had obtained this supposed master key. Her story immediately began to unravel as she stammered something about HOA protocols and emergency access. She claimed that during a legitimate maintenance visit months earlier, she'd made a copy for safety purposes. The officers exchanged meaningful glances when she admitted to duplicating a key without homeowner permission. That's when I presented my evidence file, the one I'd been compiling since Karen's harassment began. It included screenshots of her inventing HOA rules, logs of dates and times when she'd surveilled our home, and witness statements from neighbors who had seen her watching Leo. Mrs. Rodriguez from across the street had even provided doorbell footage showing Karen sitting in her car for 20 minutes, just staring at our house. The power dynamic shifted instantly. Officer Martinez began questioning Karen about her false 911 report, reminding her, in a stern, deliberate tone, that falsely claiming a child was abandoned and possibly injured, when she knew he was merely home alone, constituted misuse of emergency services. Karen's confident composure collapsed as she realized she was no longer in control. By then, neighbors had started to gather, some pretending to check their mail, others watering plants, all clearly watching the scene unfold. Several phones were already recording, and I knew it would hit the neighborhood Facebook group within hours. Karen noticed, too. Her face shifted between shades of red and white as her authority evaporated right in. Front of her so-called subjects, Officer Thompson asked to see the HOA bylaws that supposedly granted her access to private homes. When she couldn't produce them, claiming they were at her house, he calmly informed her that no HOA agreement supersedes property rights or privacy laws. Then came the words that made my entire day. "Ma'am, you're being cited for attempted unlawful entry and false reporting to emergency services." Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She sputtered something about her position and responsibilities, but the officers remained unmoved. As they filled out the citations, I told them I'd be pressing charges and that my attorney would be in touch. The mention of an attorney drained the color from Karen's perfectly made-up face. The next HOA meeting was one for the history books. Word of Karen's attempted break-in and false police report had spread fast. I came prepared, and with my lawyer Jacob Morrison, an expert in HOA disputes. The meeting room was packed, standing room only. Even the neighbors who usually avoided these meetings came to witness Karen's downfall. Jacob presented our case methodically. The unauthorized key duplication alone qualified as a criminal act, but when combined with attempted unlawful entry, harassment, and false reporting, Karen faced serious legal consequences. He also demanded a full audit of HOA key policies, questioning how many other unauthorized copies might exist. Board members began distancing themselves from her. Tom Bradley, the treasurer, revealed that Karen had attempted to push through a motion for mandatory welfare checks without board approval. Sarah Kim, the secretary, produced meeting minutes confirming the board had explicitly voted against granting Karen any special authority to enter homes. When the no-confidence vote came, it was unanimous. Even her usual allies couldn't defend her after the police involvement. As the results were read aloud, Karen stood abruptly, her chair screeching across the floor. Her voice trembled as she declared we'd all regret this once the neighborhood descended into chaos without her leadership. Then she stormed out, her heels clacking furiously against the tile. The legal fallout came swiftly. The false reporting charge alone carried a $5,000 fine. The attempted unlawful entry, compounded by the premeditated act of key duplication, resulted in misdemeanor charges. Her real estate license, which she had bragged about endlessly, was suspended pending investigation. Our civil lawsuit sought damages for Leo's emotional distress and for harassment. When the settlement was finalized, Karen was ordered to pay $15,000 in damages and legal fees. She was permanently barred from holding any HOA position and sentenced to 100 hours of community service. The judge also issued a restraining order requiring her to stay at least 100 feet from our property. I'll never forget her face when the verdict was read. Karen, the self-appointed queen of our neighborhood, stood there in her designer suit, tears streaming down her face, as the bailiff explained the terms of her probation. Her empire of petty power and control collapsed that day, and for the first time she finally faced the consequences she had long believed she was above.